Taiwan. I'm Ethan Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. More remains of victims of a devastating train crash in eastern Taiwan back in 2021 have been found. As John Van Trist reports, the new discovery is taking a toll on the families of those killed in the accident.
3 years after a fatal train crash in eastern Taiwan, victims' families are still far from closure. Workers have just found more remains of victims, 11 this time, and relatives have traveled to the crash site yet again to collect them. On April 2nd, 2021, a flatbed truck slid onto the tracks that connect East Taiwan with the rest of the country. An oncoming train hit the truck at the entrance to a tunnel and derailed. 49 died and around 200 were injured, making it Taiwan's deadliest train wreck in decades. After workers found new remains in 2023, victims' relatives asked for a more thorough search of the crash site. But the fact that remains keep turning up has kept relatives' wounds fresh.
它本身就是一直在营运通车，你进去也不是这么容易，心情就是既期待，但是又很纠结，但是又觉得很荒谬。
A lawyer representing victims' families is calling for new approaches to handling disasters of this scale to minimize relatives' pain.
对于这个各单位之间在灾害现场如何横向联络，而能够具体完成这些事项，要有一个沟通的模式。
The district prosecutor's office, whose staff accompanied family members to the crash site, has agreed to look into how to respond to future disasters.
我们在去年发生这个车厢内有这个疑似被害人遗骨的事件发生之后，那我们各单位也都责成尽速的去检讨后续遇到类似案件的一个搜证以及清理的作业流程。那我们会依照行政院会议所颁布的一个原则去要求督导相关的单位。
But as officials think about future disasters, the families of crash victims are still grappling with how to move on from the events of 2021. Delphine Chen and John Van Trist for TaiwanPlus.
Tsai Ing-wen's presidency will come to an end in the coming weeks. Leslie Liao looks back on her political rise and how she won Taiwan's highest seat of office twice.
Tsai Ing-wen made history multiple times on her way to the presidency. She was the first woman to chair a major political party, the first female presidential candidate, and the first ever woman to win Taiwan's highest seat of office. And now she ends her 8 years with a performance evaluation of 60%, according to one pollster. It may not sound that high, but it's an unprecedented rating, one that far exceeds her predecessors.
There's a comparison with the end of the Ma administration and the end of the Chen administration. Now, there were different pollsters who used slightly different methodology, but the difference between their final approval ratings and hers is night and day.
But getting to where Tsai is today was a bumpy ride. Prior to taking office, she had failed presidential and mayoral bids. Tsai first rose to prominence when she was tapped as a trade negotiator for Taiwan at the World Trade Organization. She was valued for her academic background in global trade, having a PhD from the London School of Economics. Tsai then became an aide to President Lee Teng-hui. Many scholars say she helped design Lee's stance on Taiwan's relations with China.
She was widely credited with being the prime thinker behind the special state-to-state statements that President Lee Teng-hui made at the time.
Tsai had no formal political affiliation until 2004, when she joined the Democratic Progressive Party. She served briefly as a legislator for the party before taking the job of vice premier.
I think in a lot of people's minds, she was kind of considered one of, but in the DPP, I think they kind of thought of her as one of us.
4 years after joining the party, Tsai ran for party chair. Her decision came while the DPP was fractured by political infighting, which hurt the party's popularity. She beat out party heavyweights because she did not have connections to any faction.
I think a lot of the spectacular rise of Tsai can be attributed to a power vacuum in the DPP. A lot of the heavyweights in the DPP have been around for much longer. People are kind of tired of seeing their faces.
Tsai ultimately held 3 separate stints as the DPP's chair.
She unified the party. She unified the factions. She was a stable, strong hand when she controlled the party.
In 2012, Tsai ran for president against then-incumbent Ma Ying-jeou of the China-friendly Kuomintang, but lost.
If you watch the debate at the time, Ma Ying-jeou came across as very presidential, very much in control. And she kind of looked like a student doing a presentation.
Tides changed in 2014 when a student-led movement broke out protesting the Kuomintang-led legislature's review of a trade agreement with China.
In the years leading up to the Sunflower Movement and so forth, she really did attract young people because of her progressive kind of political stances.
Tsai won Taiwan's 2016 presidential election, beating her KMT opponent Eric Zhu by a 25% margin. Despite a decisive first victory, her road to re-election in 2020 hit several setbacks. First, she was challenged for her party's nomination by current Vice President and President-elect Lai Ching-te.
He kind of stabbed her in the back as he promised he wouldn't challenge her.
Early on in her re-election bid, she also trailed considerably behind her main opponent, the KMT's Han Kuo-yu.
A lot of the reasons for her low approval rating was that she was not campaigning. She was busy being the president. So when she finally got out on the campaign trail and made her case, and she was good at it.
She ultimately prevailed and won 2020 in a landslide victory with a historic 8.17 million votes. Over her 8 years, Tsai oversaw major milestones in Taiwan, including pension reform, same-sex marriage legislation, navigating COVID, and managing relations with an increasingly aggressive China. She's credited with significantly raising Taiwan's international profile.
Taiwan has really gone from a place of comparative obscurity at the start of her term to one now that is hotly discussed.
But her leadership still had its controversies, failing to meet targets she campaigned on.
She campaigned on 3% of GDP on military spending all the way back in 2015. It's about 2.5% now. She campaigned on getting the minimum wage up to $30,000. It's still 27,000 something.
Come May 20th, Tsai will hand the torch over to her deputy, successor, and once rival, Lai Ching-te. Her time as president will come to an end, leaving behind a story of remarkable political success, one which Lai will have to work hard to match. James Lin and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Tuning all this week for our series looking back on Tsai Ing-wen's presidency. More than 300 people in southern Taiwan took to the streets to protest the terms for their relocation. Residents of Dalinpu village in Kaohsiung need to move because they're suffering from industrial air pollution. But they say the city government won't pay enough for their land for them to afford similarly sized homes in a new location. They worry they would have to go into debt to buy as much land as they currently have. The Kaohsiung government says it will continue to collect residents' feedback and hold discussions to ensure the relocation goes smoothly. The Hong Kong Appeals Court has approved the government's request to ban the protest song Glory to Hong Kong. That overturns a previous decision denying the request over concerns about freedom of expression in the city. To find out more about the ban, Gina Lopez spoke to Hong Kong activist Johnson Yong.
The Hong Kong government had been working for more than a year to have the protest song Glory to Hong Kong banned. Why is the government intent on having this song officially prohibited by law?
Glory to Hong Kong is a very popular song during the 2019 anti-elect movement. It was very popular. It was seen as the most popular protest songs in the movement. So the government has the incentive in blocking it and also banning it from circulations in the public arena.
What effects will this ban on Glory to Hong Kong have not only on the city but also its people?
This is the first song that is banned by the government and also the court after 1997. If we forbidden and prohibit our citizens from engaging information and also this song it would definitely have a lot of chilling effect. What we've seen is this time the appeal court has been deviating with this international standard and making Hong Kong less global. The Asia Internet Coalition, which composes of companies such as Google, X, and Meta, has just published a statement, obviously paying attention to the judgment, and they say open internet freedom is fundamental to the city.
And in light of all this, what is next for the pro-democracy movement of Hong Kong and the remaining few opposition forces in the city?
I think there are a lot of liberal culture that are remaining in Hong Kong, and a lot of civil society actors are still trying very hard in committing to the principles of democracy. So there's not a particular tactics or strategies that are silver bullets and apply to all. Rather, people will just keep trying hard, making the principles of democracy, the culture of democracy, and trend in this city.
That was Gina Lopez speaking with Johnson Yong, a human rights activist from Hong Kong. Thailand is set to outlaw recreational cannabis by the end of the year, 2 years after being the first country in Asia to legalize it. Thailand's prime minister says the ban comes amid concerns over a lack of regulation and crime. The drug was first decriminalized under the country's previous government in 2022. The legal cannabis industry has fueled the farming and tourism sectors and created thousands of shops. The industry was projected to grow to $1.2 billion by 2025. Although cannabis will continue to be allowed for medical use, advocates say banning recreational use will harm Thailand's economy. An alcohol awareness group is calling for May 9th to be marked as an alcohol-free day to help combat one of Taiwan's biggest health risks. Marianne Strother has more details.
A catch-up with friends or a thirst quencher on a hot day, alcoholic beverages are easy to find in Taiwan. But drinks just like these cost the government over $100 million every year, as they fork out the money to cover alcohol-related medical expenses, a figure that increases to $1.5 billion when including overall economic losses. We still don't know all the possible dangers of alcohol. A new report from the World Health Organization has linked alcohol consumption to 7 types of cancer. But one group in Taiwan wants to raise awareness of the issue and is calling for May 9th to become an alcohol-free day.
从喝下去开始呢，从食道、胃、肝、胆、胰脏都会有一些状况，那甚至呢，对脑也会有问题。
Alcohol intolerance, which can increase the risk of developing certain cancers, affects nearly 8% of the global population. But a recent survey shows nearly half of Taiwan's population has it. The condition is genetic and stops alcohol from breaking down into a non-toxic substance.
喝酒脸事实上就是代表你有酒精不耐症，你的乙醛没有办法代谢掉，那个乙醛就是破坏你的细胞，破坏你的 DNA， 然后让你生病，让你得到癌症。
People can have 1 or 2 copies of the gene responsible for the intolerance, altering the severity of the condition. Studies suggest individuals with even 1 copy of the gene are as much as 10 times more likely to develop esophageal cancer than those without the gene. The government opened a new centre last year to provide consultation, screening and referral services for alcohol addiction and to further support an existing government recovery program.
一般人如果到这个我们签约的138家戒酒的机构求助，那最高每人可以得到4万块的戒酒的补助。
These subsidies are an attempt to tackle the problem at the source, to prevent the thousands of deaths each year caused by excessive consumption. Justin Wu and Marianne Strother for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website and follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we bring you to this pub in Hungary's capital, Budapest. It's covered in notes left behind by its visitors. I'm Ethan. Take care, and I'll see you next time.